This video and all of its contents, including any opinions expressed by the narrator, are strictly for entertainment purposes only and is not intended in any way as a substitute for professional services and consultation from a licensed therapist, doctor, attorney, or other licensed professional service provider. Each person must make their own life decisions, and those decisions are theirs. Welcome back to Find Your Alpha. I'm back with another great video story, and the title of this one is My Girlfriend and I Took Rock Climbing Lessons. Then she had an affair with the instructor, and she says, I think I'm going to need some private tutoring, and it looks like these two had a lot of fun until they got busted. Now let's get into this one and see what it's all about. He starts off and he says, I've been living with my girlfriend for the past 2.5 years, but likely won't be come this time Friday. That's because a few days ago I was shown video proof that she cheated on me and I plan to walk away unless I change my mind. Well, if she cheated on you, you shouldn't be changing your mind. We met 3 years ago at a popular bar in our area. She was there with 3 of her friends and I was there with 2 of my friends. She and her friends were having a good time and partying while me and my guys were just casually hanging out listening to the band. As the evening progressed, their group approached us and introduced themselves. By that point, 3 of the 4 of them were a little left of center while we were all well within ourselves. So these ladies had been drinking. After talking a bit, the girl who wasn't drinking went home, leaving the 3 party girls at the bar. After this, we started dancing with them, which led to flirting, which eventually led to the 3 of us getting lucky that night. Uh-oh. After that, we each started casually hooking up with them. However, I could feel the relationship with my partner was different. To make a long story short, she and I ended up falling in love and moved in together 6 months later. Oh, what are you talking about here, dude? He hooks up with this party girl on the first night and then he falls in love with her and then moves in with her 6 months later. This guy was just asking for it. My friends ended up dating their partners on and off for the next 6 or 7 months, then broke it off with them after finding steady girlfriends. Ladies, that should be a lesson to you right there. Don't get involved in FWB relationships if someday you want to have a serious relationship with someone, because as you can see with these guys, they didn't take them seriously. As for me and my girlfriend had been sailing along for 3 years before I was made aware otherwise. We enjoyed living together and did everything together. Well, you obviously didn't do everything together if she was cheating on you. She exposed me to the world of EDM and I exposed her to outdoor adventures. Now I had another video where the woman was into, I think, EDM. And that's typically, party music, dance music, where they have these raves and stuff like that. I don't know, man. You got to be careful with that. He says, we've traveled quite a bit and try to combine our 2 passions whenever we can. For instance, last year we went to Coachella, then did the Cactus to Clouds Trail to the top of Mount Jacinto. It was the most difficult hike either of us had ever taken, but we did it and had an awesome time. The struggle of the hike, along with the sense of accomplishment we got after completing it, made our bond even stronger. I'd never felt that way about a woman before, and it seemed we were destined to be together. One of the things I wanted to accomplish this year was rock climbing. I've done just about every other outdoor activity, but that's one thing I've never taken up. To be honest, I was a little fearful of doing it, so to ease into it, I decided to take climbing lessons at an indoor facility near our apartment. I can tell you for myself personally, I have no interest in ever doing that, rock climbing or even wall climbing. It's just not for me. I went there and worked with 2 great instructors who I'll call Rocky and Roger. There are a few other instructors there, but I came to find out these guys were the best. They showed me the proper techniques, and after just a handful of lessons, I was scaling the wall faster than most people who had been doing it for years. After this, I worked with Rocky and Roger on my first outdoor climb, which I recently completed. It was great, and I credit them guys for showing me the ropes, so to speak. This guy doesn't use very good grammar. Let me just say that scaling an actual rock face, even a short one, is much harder than scaling the indoor wall. Like I said, my experience with my instructors and the entire organization was great. It was so good I wrote glowing reviews of the place on Facebook and Google and have referred 3 people who've gone on to take lessons there. Also, after watching me climb a few times, my girlfriend got interested and also ended up taking lessons. And here's where the trouble begins. At my suggestion, she requested working with Rocky and Roger. I went with her a few times, and it was evident she would require a little more TLC than me, but she was dedicated. I thought I was making her nervous, so I stopped going with her even though she wanted me to. I did this so she could relax and concentrate. In hindsight, this was probably a big mistake. Everything seemed fine, and she was getting better each time and feeling really good about herself. The last time I went in with her, Rocky told me she was making great progress and she seemed to be really enjoying herself. Oh, I wonder why she was. A few days ago, she had to work late and I decided to go over to the gym and do some climbing. When I got there, I saw Roger and we spoke briefly before I did my climbs. Before leaving, I ran into him again and we chatted a little while longer. I thanked him for helping my girlfriend and told him how proud she was. I remember he kind of blew it off and changed the subject, which I found strange since I thought he'd be happy to hear this. Now I wonder why he did that. Well, we're going to find out in a few minutes here, but before we do that, I want to remind you, if you like what you've heard so far, be sure to hit that like button. That will help get this video seen across the planet and also help out this channel tremendously. Now, let's go on with the story. I didn't make much of it until the following day when I got a voicemail from Roger. I called him back and he said he wanted to talk to me about something. I told him I'd be at the facility that evening and asked if he'd be there. He said yes, but said he wanted to talk to me about something that wasn't related to climbing. I asked him what it was concerning and he told me he'd tell me when we met. I found the conversation a little awkward and his evasiveness off-putting, but agreed to meet with him right after work before he went in for his evening shift. We met at the outdoor seating area of a local shopping center near a large fountain. It was blazing hot that day, so we were the only ones out there and found a shaded spot to talk. Roger started the conversation saying he wanted to let me know that Rocky was no longer working at the facility. I was surprised to hear this and asked him why. He hesitated and then said he was going to show me something and needed me to promise I wouldn't say where I saw it. I wasn't sure where he was going with this and asked him what was going on. He said he needed to show me something that involves my girlfriend and again asked if I'd promise not to say where I saw it. I was getting frustrated but hesitantly agreed as I wanted to find out what he was talking about. He told me another employee at the facility sent him a video of my girlfriend and Rocky engaging in some non-climbing activities and I wasn't going to be happy. I remember my heart sinking and me saying something like, no. He said I'm afraid so, and with that he held up his phone and played the video. I could hear voices but couldn't see the screen because of the glare, so we moved, and when the video came into focus, I was totally disgusted. I watched for several minutes and then told him to turn it off as I had seen enough. The OP says, actually I saw way too much and wish there was a way I could unsee it. He told me he was sorry to be the one to break this to me, but he thought I should know. He said I was a good dude and he couldn't live with himself if he didn't tell me. While talking, he also informed me that no one at the gym likes Rocky and they're all glad he's gone. He said he learned that Rocky did something similar at the last place he worked and was fired for it. I asked Roger if he could forward the video to me, but he wouldn't do it because he wasn't sure of the legality. He did promise to keep it on his phone for a while in case I needed to view it again. I was disappointed but understood where he was coming from. I thanked him for letting me know and promised I wouldn't say where I saw it. I obviously didn't go to climb that night and instead went out for a long run before going home. When I eventually got back, she was there and had brought takeout for us. I hadn't eaten since breakfast and was so hungry I scarfed down the food and made small talk with her even though my mind was in a blender. That had to be difficult to do. I kept up the act the entire night and didn't get much sleep. Last night was basically a repeat of the same as I thought about what I should do. Earlier today I decided I'm going to move out while she's at work, then call her and let her know why. I've already made reservations at the stay bridge near my office and will stay there until I'm able to find a new place. So I think this stay bridge he's referring to is one of these extended stay hotels. Here's my dilemma. I've told my friends about my predicament and they're basically split on how I should handle things. My one friend agrees with me and thinks I'm doing the right thing, while my other two friends think I should confront her and ask her to move out. I'm not a fan of doing that as I think it could get really messy. Does anyone have any suggestions on how to best handle this? I'm especially interested in hearing from people who've been in my situation. And that's the end of his original post. And now we're going to take a look at some of the comments he received. The first one is from a guy. He says, I'm going to ask the obvious question. Are you sure it was her? There's a lot that can be done with AI these days. Just saying. So this guy believes this Rocky guy made this video up using AI? Oh, come on. The OP responds and says, yes, I'm 100% sure it was her and not an AI simulation. This was amateur P-Hub type stuff shot with a cell phone or GoPro. So they must have been doing some crazy things on that video. The next response is from a woman. She says, my suggestion is to meet with her and let her explain herself. While there's no good answer, at least you'll know you gave her a chance and it will give you both closure. If you just leave without facing her, you're just dodging the problem and the what-ifs will haunt you forever. Well, I disagree with this woman. You don't owe her closure. You don't owe her anything. And the what-ifs aren't going to follow you. The what-ifs are going to follow her because she's going to be thinking in her mind, what if I didn't get caught? What if I didn't cheat on my boyfriend? I'd still be with him today. This guy will be fine. The next response is also from a woman. She says, you didn't say how long it lasted or how many times they were together. For me, that would make a difference. My ex-husband cheated on me and I was willing to forgive him if it was a one-off physical thing. But when I found out it had been going on for months, I divorced him and never regretted it. Okay, now what I would say to this lady is it doesn't matter if it was one time or 100 times. She cheated on him and that's it. And it doesn't matter if it was just a physical thing or if emotions were involved. Cheating is cheating, and once that happens, as far as I'm concerned, the relationship is over. And the final response is from a guy. He says, leave, block her, and get tested. That's what I do and nothing more. After what she did, you don't owe her anything. I've unfortunately been through this and made the mistake of letting her talk me into staying. She treated me like a king, but I was miserable and ended up dashing after 3 weeks. Don't waste your time, he says. And that's a sample of some of the responses he got back. And now we're going to take a look at the final update that the OP provides. And this came 7 weeks later. He says, I know it's been a while, but to be honest, I've been trying to block the last 3 years out of my mind. Since many have been asking, I thought I'd come back to put a bow on this, then delete my account because I now find these stories depressing after being a victim myself. My former girlfriend and I are done, and that was never in question. He says there was absolutely no chance I'd take her back after what she did. The only question was whether I was going to confront her or just leave, and I chose the latter even though everyone except my one friend wanted me to have a personal discussion with her. I decided against that as I didn't want to complicate matters. I knew how she'd react, and therefore that option contained only downsides. So I just moved out and left her a letter letting her know why. So he just left her a letter. He didn't even call her like he said he was going to do in his original post. The interesting thing is, she didn't even call me that night when she got home. In fact, she didn't call me until Saturday afternoon, and when she did, she said she didn't have anything to say for herself other than she was sorry and asked if I'd be willing to work things out. Now, my take on this, the reason why she didn't call right away is she was probably thinking, what can I say to him to get out of this? How can I worm my way out of this? And when she realized there was nothing she could do, she said, okay, I'm just going to call and beg him for mercy. He says, I told her I wasn't, and when he says I wasn't, he wasn't willing to work things out. And she said she understood, but was very sad and depressed. She also told me not to worry about the 4 remaining months on our lease as she would pay for it. That sounds good, but I would verify that if I were you, mister, because guess what? She might not pay. That was a pleasant surprise, as was her demeanor, but to be honest, I think she was so embarrassed by the video that she just wanted to crawl under a rock. Well, why did she let herself be videoed unless she didn't know she was being videoed? And in that case, she might be able to file charges against this guy. He says she did end up breaking down to me over the phone a few weeks later and begged me to come back. She said she was miserable and was willing to give me whatever I wanted in order to have me in her life again. Now, likely what happened to her here was, once she found out that video was out there and people had seen it, she probably was very embarrassed and she wanted to crawl under a rock like he said. But then after a couple weeks, the reality of the situation set in and she realized, oh no, I'm alone here. And that guy I had the affair with just used me. I want my boyfriend back. I want my rock back. And our man here isn't having it. He's like, nope, you cheated on me and we are done. I told her I wouldn't be willing to do that, but would like to remain cordial if we ever ran into each other again. She asked me if I was still interested in going to Patagonia with her this fall as we had planned. She said she'd pay for everything and we could go as friends, as she really wanted to go with me. I told her no and explained it would be impossible for us to be friends after this. Good for you, mister. You did the right thing. She promised she could keep things strictly platonic. I told her there was no way to do that, so taking vacations or even hiking together was off the table. So that was the extent of our conversation, and I haven't heard from her again. Well, that's surprising, but I would bet dollars to donuts that she'll end up popping up in your life again at some point in a few weeks, in a few months, in a few years. She'll be back. He says, I don't know if she's still getting it on with Rocky, and at this point, I don't really care. If you read my first post, you'll probably remember the fourth girl at the bar who didn't drink and left early. Now remember what he said up front when he went to the bar with his two friends. His girlfriend, his eventual girlfriend, had 3 of her friends with her, and one of those friends was a non-drinker and left early. He says, I'm dating her now. We ran into each other at REI and started talking and met for a drink last night. We hit it off and are going hiking on Saturday. It's not awkward or anything, as she really doesn't know my ex all that well. She's just a co-worker of one of my ex's friends. I really like her and definitely could see this going somewhere. Don't put the cart before the horse, my man. Take it slow. He says, that's all I got to say, so I'll leave it right there. And that's the end of his story. Now, obviously, this guy made a ton of mistakes right out of the gate and did things you should never do as a man. But I gotta hand it to him. Once he found out his girlfriend had cheated on him, he did the right thing by cutting it off with her and moving on with his life. So I give him credit there. And now I want to take a look at what I think are the morals of this story. The first one, bars are generally not good places to find true love. Yes, you might find a girl you can have fun with there, but I doubt you're going to find someone who is relationship material. Next. Beware of party girls, as they will likely always be party girls. They might suppress it for a while, but that party girl is always going to come out at some point. Next. Going all the way on the first date is a big red flag. I'm not going to belabor this because I've said it on previous videos, and I think you know my feelings on this. But if you're looking for a serious relationship and you're going on a date with a woman and you go all the way on the first date, yeah, it might sound great. And hey, if you're looking just to have fun, that's one thing. But if this is someone you're looking to have a long-term relationship with, it's a big red flag, because in my mind, I'm thinking, hey, she's doing this with me. How many other guys did she do this with? You got to ask yourself that question. Next. You really need to get to know someone before moving in together. This guy said they moved in after 6 months, and he said they were in love. Mister, you weren't in love, you were in lust, and you jumped the gun there, and you see what this got you in the end. Next. Desperate people may take desperate actions. And this is where I agree with him of just leaving and not having a confrontation with her. Because at that point, she's going to be desperate. She's going to try to do everything to get you to stay. And when that doesn't work, she may resort to taking desperate measures. She may accuse you of something and who knows what else. So I always recommend just leaving the scene, just like he did. Or if you're going to confront someone, always have witnesses. And finally, if someone cheats on you, you don't owe them an explanation. You don't owe them anything. The only person you owe anything to in that situation is yourself. So do what's best for you. And those are my thoughts, and now I want to hear from you. What did you think of this story, and how do you think this guy handled the situation? Would you have done what he did, or would you have done something completely different? Tell us about it in the comments. Also, be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to this channel, and I will talk to you on the next one.